Good afternoon, students. Until yesterday, we were dealing with the chapter Human Reproduction in the NEET class. So, with the same chapter, we are going to continue, that is Human Reproduction. So, we had one fair idea about the explanation about how, what are the different topics involved in the human reproduction chapter. So we'll go with the 11th question now. Continuing with those questions until yesterday, what we have discussed, we will go with the other questions. That is the 11th question. Understand the questions first. First, we will first know what is the question is and later go on to the options. 11th question, which part of the ovary that you know it is present in the female reproductive part, it is a female reproductive part in mammals, acts as an endocrine gland after ovulation. Which part of the ovary in mammals acts as an endocrine gland after ovulation? So the option 1 is germinal epithelium, option 2 stroma, option 3 Graafian follicle, and option D none of the above. So, which among these acts as an endocrine gland after ovulation? So, you all know what is ovulation. Ovulation is nothing but the process of the release of the ovule or the ovum or the egg is nothing but it's an ovulation process. So, after the menstrual cycle, after your 13th day, the 14th day, the release of the ovum which takes place is nothing but called as ovulation. This question was asked in NEET paper 2013. So now, what do you mean by endocrine gland and how does it works? So, endocrine gland is nothing but which produces hormones, which releases hormones. Okay, which produces hormone for the regulation of the body is nothing but called as endocrine gland. Clear? So endocrine gland is nothing but which releases hormone for the regulation of the body is nothing but called as endocrine gland. So after ovulation, that is the release of the ovum, the Graafian follicle, you all know it is from Graafian follicle itself, the ovum is released. Yes, from the follicle itself, the ovum is released in the follicular phase of the menstrual cycle. So after ovulation, the Graafian follicle matures, it ripens off, means it gets maturity, and it turns into corpus luteum. It turns into corpus luteum. So what is this corpus luteum? So after the 14th, after the 13th day, on the 14th, when the ovum is released, the Graafian follicle turns into or matures into a corpus luteum, that is a yellow color body. Yes, it matures into a corpus luteum, a yellow color body, and works as an endocrine gland. Endocrine gland is something which produces hormones for the regulation of the body. It releases a Graafian follicle as an endocrine gland releases luteinizing hormone, that is LH, follicle stimulating hormone, which is FSH, estrogen and progesterone. So all these hormones are important for your menstrual cycle, fertility, puberty, pregnancy, parturition and gestation as well. So it releases how many hormones? It releases luteinizing hormone LH, follicular stimulating hormone FSH, then estrogen and progesterone, thus playing an important role. It plays an important role in regulating the changes in the female reproductive system. It plays an important role in regulating or controlling or kind of functioning the changes in the female reproductive system, and the option or the answer is Graafian follicle. So if the question is asked which part of the ovary in mammals acts as an endocrine gland after ovulation, it is Graafian follicle. Graafian follicle, after the maturation, that is after the ovulation, release of the ovum, it matures, forms into an corpus luteum, a yellow color body, and acts as an endocrine gland. An endocrine gland which releases hormones for the regulation of the body. So the answer is C. Next, coming to the 12th question, ultrasound of how much frequency is beamed into the human body for sonography. The question was asked in NEET AIPMT 2007. The option is 0.01 to 0.015 megahertz, 1 to 15 megahertz, 130 to 150 megahertz, 190 to 250 megahertz. So, ultrasound of how much frequency is beamed into the human body for sonography. You all know a sonography is done for the pregnant woman to see the growth of the baby or the fetus inside the womb of a mother. Yes, a sonography is done, and for that, a ultrasound laser beam or ultrasound beam is been given is been given the to see the growing fetus inside the womb of a mother. So if you have seen, right, the sonography of any sonographic pictures of any pregnant woman, you see something in a black and white color. You can see that small dot, or to see the growth of the baby, how the baby is growing, to listen to the heartbeats of the baby. Also, the sonography is being done. So how much frequency is beamed, means how much frequency of the ultrasound rays are being used for this. So typical diagnostic sonographic scanners operate in the frequency of 1 to 18 megahertz. How many? 1 to 18 to 1 to 15 megahertz. Okay, 1 to 15 megahertz. The choice of frequency is between the spatial resolution of the image and imaging depth. To see the resolution of the image, means how the resolution is. You also have seen the camera resolutions, right? That how clear it is, how in a macrographic way you can see it. That is nothing but called as resolution. We say it is a resolution of the camera, or resolution of any lens and all. Yes, so the similar way, this megahertz, that is 1 to 15 megahertz, is a choice for the frequency. It's a choice of a frequency to see the image, a resolution of the image and the imaging depth. Yes, lower the frequencies produce less resolution images. Yes, lower the frequency of the ultrasound ray, lower the resolution of the image. Higher frequency sound waves have a smaller wavelength and thus are capable of reflecting or scattering from smaller structures. Higher frequency sound waves also have a lower attenuation coefficient and thus are more readily absorbed in tissue, limiting the depth of penetration of the sound wave into the body. So, a typical diagnostic sonographic scanners operate in the frequency range of 1 to 15 megahertz. So, that is where we can get a proper resolution image from the womb of a mother, and proper sonographic pictures can be obtained to see how the baby is growing inside the womb of a mother. So 1 to 15 megahertz is a correct answer. Fetal ejection reflex in human female is induced by fetal ejection reflex in human female is induced by NEET 2009. The question was asked. Option A, oxytocin release. Option B, differentiation of mammary glands. Option C, fully developed fetus and placenta. Option D, none of the above. So fetal ejection reflex is nothing but where the fetus itself gives us the reflex, means the signals. So it is ready to come out or ready for the parturition process, that is the delivery process. So fetal ejection reflex in human female is induced by whom? Parturition is an induced complex and a neuroendocrine mechanism where we get the signals, okay, that the fetus is ready to come out from the womb of the mother. In the signals are originated from a fully developed fetus. You must have heard about this, right? The water bag breaking. Yes, the water bag breaking is nothing but where this is signal which we get that the fetus is ready to come out of the from the body of the mother. Fully developed fetus and placenta. This leads to the mild uterine contractions, the uterus walls. Yes, the uterus wall. You know, there are three walls there: myometrium, endometrium. There are three walls there where the uterus wall contraction takes place, which we call it as labor pain. Yes, the mild uterine contractions takes place, and hence these are nothing but fetal ejection reflex, where the fetus is fully grown to come out of the body of the mother. Then oxytocin acts as a uterine muscle, leading to the strong uterine contractions. Yes, once the mild uterine contraction starts, it becomes more and more intense along with the time, where the fetus is ready to move out of the body of the mother. And because of these contractions, because of these uterine wall contractions, the baby is expelled out of the uterus with the placenta to the birth canal. From the birth hole, the baby comes out. So here, who gives the major signals? The major signals are given by the fully developed fetus and placenta. Once the placenta and the fetus and the placenta are fully developed, are able to fully developed to come out of the womb of the mother, what happens here? The fetus and the placenta itself gives the signals. They itself gives the signals, and the mild uterine contractions takes place, which we call it as labor pain. Those the three walls which are present in the uterus, they starts contracting, means they start coming closer and moving back, closer and moving back, because of which what happens, the baby slowly starts moving out of the womb of the mother. So fetal ejection reflex in human female is induced by fully developed fetus and placenta. It is developed by fully developed fetus and placenta. So the answer is C. 14th question, which of the following is most likely a reason for not occurring regular menstruation cycle in females? It was asked in 2009, this question. Which of the following is most likely a reason for not occurring regular menstruation, that is the menstrual cycle in females? So option 1, maintenance of high concentration of sex hormones in the bloodstream, retention of the well-developed corpus luteum, that is the maturation of the Graafian follicle, fertilization of the ovum, and all of the above. So there are many people who complain about their not so regular menstrual cycle. Yes, they do not get a menstrual cycle for months together, and also they miss their periods. So what is a major reason for missing their periods or missing their menstrual cycle? A high blood concentration of progesterone. A high blood concentration of progesterone in estrogen will delay or stop the menstrual cycle. If there is a high concentration of progesterone and estrogen hormone in the blood of the females, it will stop the menstruation cycle. Means it will not give the signal for the endometrium wall to break. If there is a lower the concentration of estrogen and progesterone in the blood of the females, higher the chances of them getting their menstrual cycle. A high concentration of sex hormone inhibits ovulation and implantation, as well as alter the quality of cervical mucus to prevent retard the entry of the sperm. Yes, this is also one of the reasons where there is a high concentration of sex hormones in the bloodstream. This also lowers down the chances of the menstrual cycle. This also takes place because of the high concentration of progesterone and estrogen circulation. Yes, and circulation in the blood of the woman, and high secretion of follicular stimulating hormone FSH, then fertilization of the ovum, then luteinizing hormone secretion from the pituitary gland is inhibited. Yes, the secretion of the FSH luteinizing hormone from pituitary is inhibited, and the fertilization of the ovum taking place in the body of the women also is a reason for not so regular menstruation in their body. First one is the high concentration of sex hormones in the bloodstream. Yes, that is the high quantity of the progesterone and estrogen in the bloodstream of the females. Retention of the well developed corpus luteum means the corpus luteum do not degenerate, that remains in the body. Fertilization of ovum, then inhibition of FSH and LH in the body also are the reason for not having a regular menstrual cycle. So all of the above is an answer for not having regular menstrual cycle. In humans, at the end of the first meiotic division, the male germ cell differentiate into. So in humans, at the end of the first meiotic division, that is the first meiosis, the male germ cell differentiate into, was asked in 2008 question paper. Option 1, secondary spermatocytes, spermatogonia, spermatids, and annular tubules. So what happens at a sexual maturity? The germ cell in human male divides several times by mitosis to produce large number of spermatogonia. Yes, the spermatogonia is a germ cell from which the spermatids are produced. So each spermatogonium actively grows to a large primary spermatocyte from the nourishing tissue, that is the Sertoli cells. They nourish it from the nursing cells. What happens here? At the end of the first meiotic division, that is once the first meiotic division which takes place, forming the primary spermatocyte, yes, which forming the primary spermatocyte, producing two haploid daughter cells, it produces secondary spermatocytes. So what happens here? The first spermatogonia, first spermatogonia undergoes a large number of mitosis division. It undergoes large number of mitosis division to form the primary spermatocyte. Yes, then the primary spermatocyte undergoes first maturation, that is the meiosis, to produce two haploid daughter cells, and those two haploid daughter cell is nothing but called as secondary spermatocyte. It is called as secondary spermatocyte. That secondary spermatocyte undergoes second maturation division to form four haploid spermatids or the sperms. The transformation of spermatids into spermatozoa is called as spermiogenesis. So after the first meiotic division, the male germ cell differentiate into secondary spermatocyte because the primary spermatocyte undergoes meiosis, forms two daughter cells, and those two daughter cells are called as secondary spermatocytes. So the answer is A. The 16th question, the change in the amount of yolk and its distribution in the egg will affect. It was asked in year 2009. The option 1, fertilization, option 2, formation of zygote, option C, pattern of cleavage, and option D, number of blastomeres produced. The change in the amount of yolk and its distribution in the egg will affect what? So the pattern of cleavage is determined by the amount of yolk and its distribution. The pattern of cleavage is nothing but, it is the amount of yolk and its distribution is nothing but called as pattern of cleavage. It is nothing but called as pattern of cleavage. So here what happens in the pattern of cleavage, it divides the egg completely. So what happens in this? The egg in this type of cleavage contain moderate to less amount of yolk. to moderate to less amount of yolk. So the change in the amount of yolk and its distribution in the egg will affect by the pattern of cleavage. By the pattern of cleavage, either there can be moderate amount of yolk or a very less amount of yolk present in the holoblastic cleavage, or when we talk about meroblastic cleavage, the segmentation lines do not completely pass through the egg and remain confined to the part of the egg. Hence, it does not divide egg completely. Egg in this type of cleavage contain large amount of yolk in insects and birds, whereas the holoblastic cleavage, what happens? There is a there contains less or a more amount of yolk. It is in the human frog eggs. So this type of distribution of the yolk is nothing but called as pattern of cleavage. The change in the amount of yolk and its distribution in the egg will affect the pattern of cleavage. So the answer is C. The signals for parturition originate from. The signals for parturition, that is for the delivery process, where does the signals originate from? The signals for parturition originate from. Parturition is nothing but delivery process. From fully developed fetus only, placenta only, placenta as well as fully developed fetus, both A and B. Yes, the signals for parturition originate from A and B. That is both fully developed fetus and also from placenta. Because it is nothing but the fetal ejection reflex, where the fetus itself starts giving the signals for it